Welcome back to what will be a three-part series where I answer the questions to atheists posed by Christian apologist Matt Slick of calm.org. This is part 2, and in it I will be answering questions 11 through 21. I'll leave a link to part 1, as well as a link to the original article in the description box so you can take a look. And now, on with the show. Question 11. If you were at one time a believer in the Christian God, what caused you to deny his existence? I was never a believer in the Christian God. Sure, I went to a vaguely Christian school until I was 11, and we would sing hymns in the morning, but the God of which we were taught was not, as I would later learn, the same character as presented in the Bible. It was a happy, fluffy bunny version, but certainly not what I would now describe as the Christian God. So, I had a not so terribly well-defined idea of a God, an all-powerful, all-knowing deity, which would send me to hell for being bad. But over time I began to question. The story of how and why is quite long and involved, so I'll leave it for another time, but in short, I realised that I was holding the existence of a God to a lesser standard than I would anything else. There are plenty of texts that describe vampires, ghosts and other mythological creatures. Although it would be exciting if they existed, without evidence I have no reason to believe they do, in fact, exist. Why should the concept of God get a free pass? Question 12. Do you believe the world will be better off without religion? Absolutely. A lot of harm has been done in the name of religion, from the mutilation of a baby's genitals to suicide bombers and holy wars. So yes, I think that the world would be better off without religion. But that doesn't mean I want to ban it. I think people should have a choice, and I have no right to dictate to them what they believe. And as long as it doesn't harm anyone or restrict how others live their lives, then worship any god you want. Yes, I would prefer it if the money for places of worship was spent on schools, and time worshipping was spent learning, but that's just my preference. Question 13. Do you believe the world would be better off without Christianity? Haven't I already answered that question? Christianity is just another religion after all. I'll add to it by saying that, like many religions, Christianity has a nasty habit of holding us back. True, there have been great scientists over the years that have been Christian, and they have advanced our knowledge, but their work stands on its own merits, not the religion of the person who did it. Question 14. Do you believe that faith in a god or gods is a mental disorder? I used to, but now I don't, at least not in all cases. Humans are complex creatures, and there are all sorts of reasons we can and do believe things. For example, childhood indoctrination. As children we are very impressionable and easily influenced. This helps us learn, but can also be a hindrance if we are told something false by parents or others in a position of authority. The lessons we learn as children will often stick with us into adulthood, whether they're right or wrong, because we rarely question the source. Question 15. Must God be known through the scientific method? Must he? No, not necessarily. I have a family member who believes in a God, and does so because he has had personal experience of it, or so he claims. I can't disprove that, and he may be right. However, he knows that his personal experience is evidence only to himself, and therefore he does not demand or even expect that I, or anyone else, believe also. I wish more theists had this approach. Question 16. If you answered yes to the previous question, then how do you avoid a category mistake by requiring material evidence for an immaterial God? I didn't answer yes to the previous question, so I was going to leave this one, but there is something worth mentioning. Most theists claim that their God answers prayers, or punishes sinners, or performs miracles. These all take place in the material world, and can therefore be tested. Question 17. Do we have any purpose as human beings? I don't think we have an innate purpose, although I am aware that some people like to make one for themselves. I suppose you could say our purpose as biological organisms is to pass on our genes, but to me that word purpose seems to imply there is some goal. It's not a purpose, it's just something that often happens. As far as I can tell, human beings are just collections of atoms that seem to be aware, on which the forces of nature act like they do on anything else, before being dispersed back into the rest of the universe. And that sits just fine with me. I don't need a purpose. Question 18. If we do have purpose, Can you, as an atheist, please explain how that purpose is determined? Well, for that, you'd need to ask someone with a purpose. Question 19. Where does morality come from? I don't know. Does it even exist beyond societal dictates? Did it evolve as part of necessity for a social species? What is morality? These are questions I often ask myself, and I'm in good company because many of the great philosophers have asked these very questions for years past and will continue to do so, I suspect, for years still to come. Question 20. Are there moral absolutes? No, as evidenced by how morality changes over time and from culture to culture. Even if we were to say that morals were dictated to us by a god, they're just that god's opinion. Question 21. If there are moral absolutes, could you list a few of them? I can't because, like I said, I don't think there are any. And with that, we come to the end of part 2. Be sure to come back next time for questions such as, do you believe there is such a thing as evil? And what would it take for you to believe in God? Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe to my channel. Would you have answered any of these questions differently? Let me know in the comments section.